Shonen. Deepest reverence and thankfulness for the all-embracing wisdom and compassion of Amida Buddha, we affirm the three homages. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I go to the Sangha for guidance. To the Sangha. Please repeat the Nembutsu. Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu. And now please turn to page 33 in the service book, and we will chant together the Shoshin without the wasan. We'll do the regular Nembutsu at the end. Kansho Bell Koku Don Den Shizen Mak Konryu Mujoshu Shogun Chohotuke Udai Guze Gokoshi Uishi Shoju Jusemyo Shomon Jippo Fuho Muryo Muhenko Muge Mutaiko and No Shoujo Kangi Chi Eko Fudananji Mushoko Chonichi Gakko Shojin Set Isai Gunjo Mukosho Hongan Yogo Shoujo Go Ishin Shingyo Ganin Jotoku Gakusho Dainehan Hishi Metsudo Ganjoju Nyorai Sho Iko Shusei Yui Setu Mida Hongan Kai Gotoku Akuji Gunjo Kai Oshin Yorai Nyojitsu Gon No Hotsu Ichinen Ki Aishin Fudan Bon no Tokunehan Bonjo Gyakuho Sai Enyu Ryoshu Shinyu Kai Ichimi Seshu Shinko Joshogo Ino Suiha Mumyo An Honai Shinzo Shihunmu Jofu Shinjitsu Shinjin Ten Inyo Nikofu Unmu Unmu Shige Nyomu Han Gyaku Shinken Kyo Daikyo Ki Soku Ocho Setsu Go Akushu Isai Zen Maku Bonbu Nin Monshin Yorai Guzegan Butsu Gon Kodai Shoge Sha Zenin Myo Fundari Kemida Butsu Hongan Nembutsu Jaken Kyoman Nakushujo Shingyo Juji Jinninan Nanshuchi San Mukashi Indo Saiten Shironge Chukaji Iki Shikoso Kendai Shoko Se Ochoi Nyonyo Rai Honze Oki Shaka Nyorai Ryoga Sen Ishugomyo Nantenji Ryuju Dai Jishu Tose Shitsu no Zai Ha Umuken Senzetsu Daijo Muhojo Shokangi Ji Shohan Ra Kenji Nangyo Roku Roku Shinyo Igyo Shidora Akunen Mida Butsu Hongan Jinen Sokuji Nyu Hitsujo Yui no Josho Nyorai Go Oho Dai Higuze Hon Tenjin Bo Sanzo Ron Set Kim Yomu Gekko Nyorai Eishu Tara Kenshin Jits Kosen no Cho Dai Segan Koyu Hongan Riki Eko Ido Bunjo Sho Ishin Kinyuku Doku Dai Hokai Hitsugyaku Nyu Dai Eshushu Takushi Renge Zozekai Soku Shoshin Yoho Shojin Yubon no Ringen Jinzu Nyu Shoji Onji Oge Hanshi Don Ran Ryo Tenshi Joko Ran Shobo Satsurai Sanzo Rushi Jujokyo Bonjo Sengyo Kiraku Ho Tenjin Bo Satin Ranchuge Hodo Inga Kensegan Ogen Neko Yutari Shoujo Shin Yui Shinjin Wakuzen Banbu Shinjin Pops Shoshi Shoshi Sokunean Dosha kesho donansho yuimyo jodo katsunyu menzenji riki hengonshu and mantoku go kansensho san kusan shinke ongon Zomatsuho metsu dohin Isho zo akuchi guze Shian yo gai sho myo ka Zendo doku myo bushoi Koi jo sanyo gyakuwa Komyo myo go keninen Kai nu hongan dai chikai Gyoja shoju kongo shin Kyo kichin and so go Yo idai to gyaku sanin Soku sho shi jora Genshin kokai ichi daikyo Henki anyo kanisai Senzo shushin hansenjin Oke nido shoben ryu Gakuju akunin yui sobu Gayakuzai hise shuju Bono shogen furui fuken Daihimu Kenjo shoga Honshi genku myobukyo Renmin zen maku bonbu nin Shinshu kyo kosho kohenshu Senjaku hongangu akuse Genrai shoji rindenge Ketchi gijo ishoshi Sakunyu jakujo muri rock Ichi shinjin ino niu Gukyo dai jishu shiton Joy musen Goku joku ak Dozoku jishu Gudoshin Yuika Shinshi Koso Sen Serenity and joy. Namu Amida Butsu, Namu Amida Butsu, Namu Amida Butsu, Namu Amida Butsu, Namu Amida Butsu. Please rise for the Vandana and Sarana, which is on page 167, if you're not familiar. Supremely awakened one. Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. Sangham Saranam Gacchami. Sangham Saranam Gacchami. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I go to the Sangha for guidance. I go to the Sangha for guidance. Namo Kie Butsu. Namo Kie Butsu. Namo Kie Ho.
Namo Kie Ho.
Namo Kie So.
Namo Kie So. Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu. Please be seated.
Today's reading is from The Great Natural Way by the Venerable Hozen Seki, who founded this temple. Higan, the other shore, Nirvana, the Pure Land. This shore, or world, is the place of self, form, law of causation. It is not so pleasant a place, full of disagreeable affairs, stealing, war, anger, hunger, desire. But the other shore is nirvana, beyond karma. It's true peace, freedom, and happiness. So naturally, we look for the other shore. Geographically, we imagine the two shores, but we may also imagine the Higan as up, not over. And so, by our effort, we wish to climb up to the other shore. Or we may imagine the other shore as deep inside our minds, at their bottom. We see the other shore in all directions, flatly or vertically, in all directions. But without this world, there is not that world. There is not that shore. So when we imagine non-self, naturally, we will recognize this shore and the other shore coming together in oneness. We are living on the other shore, however. But we cannot recognize this because we have form and a blind eye with which to see the other shore. This is why, in instructing Queen Vaidehi, Gautama Buddha advised her to contemplate the water. If we also follow this advice, we will come to understand the true meaning of suffering, emptiness, impermanence, and non-self. The sound of the water teaches us many ways to cross over the waters of suffering to the other shore. And now I would like to introduce, call out Reverend Isabelle Shinjo Bernard for our wonderful Dharma talk this week. Have to remember.
Thank you, Gary Sensei, for that nice introduction. And I was thinking as you were doing that wonderful reading that it's so funny. We don't coordinate things, our talks and our readings, but the three Tokudo MAs are so in sync that somehow things do seem to come together. So that was a wonderful lead-in. Thank you. How do we get to the other shore? We usually talk about the paramitas on Ohigan, and paramita means to go across um, and leave behind our delusions, our ignorance, and our deep self-centered focus. But in Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, we don't really focus on our efforts so much. And rather, we know the unseen. We think about the unseen forces that support our efforts. So that which propels us ever onward. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the unseen rather than the paramitas. So I called this talk Carried by the Wind of the Vow. So it's been very windy out lately. So hello again and welcome. It's really wonderful to see so many of you here. And this is the reason why we have services. So we're very grateful for your presence today. Thank you. So did everyone enjoy the snowstorm last week? It's quite a segue, right? It was a few weeks back, but it was so unexpected. I'm very conscious of the weather. Some of you know I moved recently to a more suburban venue. I'm now out in New Jersey and I have beautiful trees outside my bedroom window and birds singing. So I'm even more conscious of the weather, which has been so unpredictable, going from warm in the 70s to cold and back again. So the coldness of winter or a calm and pleasant segue into spring is something we cannot take for granted anymore. We all want winter to leave quickly so that we can enjoy the warmer spring air. But I found myself that week enjoying and really amazed at the winter wonderland and how pretty everything looked outside my window. Although I was a little bit concerned about the early blooming flowers, I wondered if they'd survive the sudden snowstorm and dip in temperatures, because we don't want the trees and the flowers to suffer, do we? They're sentient. They may not be sentient in a way that we understand, but they're certainly alive, and they don't have the warm coats or indoor heating that we do. We take for granted that they will bloom, these sweet smelling blossoms, but they only exist in potentiality within the causes and conditions of the transitioning weather. So if these flowers make it this year, I will really appreciate them, as well as the plants that bear them, as I'm sure you will. So we march forward inexorably to a new season towards spring and all of its potential blooms and pleasant smells and all the things we enjoy. So I've been musing lately about how things and our perception of things shift in our lives. Rarely as dramatically as the shifts in weather or a move from one state to another. But like nature itself, everything exists in a state of continual motion. The days and even stages of our lives are like that. Generally small shifts, not seismic ones, although we have those too. But in focusing on the largeness of life, we miss a lot when we're looking towards the future or focused only on revisiting the past, as often happens when we have extreme shifts of emotion. Although our minds may swing back and forth, life just simply carries us, and all the things that support us along with it. So often I find myself focused more on a past memory or on something anticipated in the future rather than the present. For example, reminding myself to work on this talk as I was driving and trying to focus on the road. I'm not an experienced driver, so that was really important. But really, time is not as linear as we picture it. It's more of a circle that widens as our days go by, or perhaps as our awareness widens. In Buddhism, we try to cultivate an awareness of all the causes and conditions that contribute to our life's continuance. And that may seem like a small thing, a small shift in awareness, but as the circle widens, one may wind up feeling quite small indeed, inside of that small circle, although also part of something bigger than we can possibly imagine. It's like the wind. We can't see it, but it has great power to move things and carry them far up into the sky. So, does anyone remember the Winnie the Pooh cartoons? Yes! Do you remember Piglet? He was Winnie the Pooh's closest friend, and he considers himself a very small animal. He's rather timid, but he tries to be brave sometimes, banishing his fears through seeing things from the other viewpoint. So I really relate to Piglet in my life. He's braver than he thinks, but he is small. And being so small, the world around him seems ever so much bigger than he is, except for some very small creatures, that is. Piglet, after all, considers his size in relation to others. So thank goodness for Winnie the Pooh, his best friend. He's always close by Piglet, and he helps him get through his days. Although Pooh is not the wisest bear or the smartest person in Piglet's world, he is a very loyal friend, and he's truly loving. He does his best to help Piglet expand his perceptions. Sometimes having a good friend is all we need to get through the day. We call these good friends Zenshishiki in Japanese, or Kalyana Mitra in Sanskrit. They don't wear signs or t-shirts or proclaim their importance. Rather, they exist right beside us. They aren't even necessarily human or sentient. They help us get through our days and gain awareness and appreciation of how things really are, an awareness that is at the heart of the Shin Buddhist teachings. So in the words of Shinran Shonin, the Tathagata of a light that surpasses the sun and moon taught me the Nembutsu Samadhi. The Tathagatas of the 10 quarters compassionately regard each sentient being as their only child. So Piglet gains a feeling of being the most important one in the small universe in which he or she lives. Having complete trust in his friends, Piglet gradually gains a sense of his or her own significance. Bathed in the light of compassion, the warm embrace of Amida Buddha is ever present in our lives, although it may be, like the wind, not easily grasped or seen. That is what is expressed when we say O-Nembutsu. We are embraced by the compassionate heart of Amida. We are never abandoned. As Joda Shinshu Buddhists, our religious practice is as much, if not more, internalized as it is externalized. Externally, we look the same from day to day, although as time passes, change is inevitable. Inwardly, though, our entire being engages when we say O-Nembutsu, and Amida Buddha engages with us. It is a dynamic that does not exist without us, without our total engagement. O-Nembutsu, Nembutsu practice, means mindfulness of the Buddha. In Enjodo Shinshu, we understand this mindfulness not as a subjective or self-willed act. We say Nembutsu in gratitude. It's not very different from the love we have for our parents and friends and that they have for us. Even when upset or angry with them, or they with us, we are aware of the bond between us that can never be broken. It is felt intuitively and emotionally when we consider their presence in our lives. We begin our service by entering the Hondo and bowing, showing our respect to Buddha as we enter. We begin and end service by joining our hands in Gassho, placing ourselves as Namu, the one seeking refuge, with Amida's Buddha. We are joined in oneness when we place our palms together in Gassho. And Namu Amida Butsu contains both ourself and Amida's primal vow, that which calls us to take refuge in Amida Buddha. Take refuge in the name, which is Namu Amida Butsu in Japanese. In time, saying O Nembutsu transforms our awareness of simply saying the name into our sense of a deeply felt gratitude to Amida Buddha, who is the embodiment of wisdom and compassion that, like an unseen wind, carries us through our daily lives. So if you look closely at the statue of Amida Buddha on the Onaijin, on the altar, you may notice it stands on a lotus, which is symbolic of rising up from the mud of ignorance. What is at the basis of this ignorance? What is understood? How is it understood in Buddhism or Jodo Shinshu? Anyone? Anyone? Okay. Well, for myself, it's my deeply self-centered mind. It's impossible for me to truly understand the world as it is within a narrow view, a subjective view, that of considering my needs and attachments that are at the center of my being. The content of our human lives in this Saha world, the temporal world of attachments and deeply rooted egotism. Has anyone else noticed that the Buddha statues stand on a lotus throne? Why do you think it's such a potent symbol? Lily, in Buddhism. That's excellent. And there are no right or wrongs, by the way, to such a question. There's, you can say art historians, it can say it's a motif, but, we may each have a way of looking at it that's valid. For me, the lotus lays buried in the mud, which can symbolize ourselves, right? Yet somehow light filters down to reach it through the water. It grows in silty, muddy ponds, doesn't grow in clear water. There's a lot of dirt there. So you wonder how the light gets to the seed, much as how does the light of Amida get to our awareness that's so muddied with our self-centered views, our narrow views of ourselves? But much in the way that the seedling senses something and tries to reach the light and slowly grows through the mud and the water, the dirty, dirty water, to reach the surface. And then it's transformed into a beautiful lotus flower as it emerges into the light. So it's another way of saying what Lily said. Basically, it's the world. It's ourselves in the world. It's truly miraculous that this tiny seedling contains the strength to do this. It's much easier to sit in the mud. Some days we sit in the mud, and some days we have the strength to reach upward. But there is no choice, is there? For the seedling contains within it the potential for the life as a lotus blossom. And so it is with us and Amida Buddha, because the vow exists to embrace and encourage us to listen deeply to the potentiality that exists for us within our lives. So the lotus emerging from the mud and becoming a throne for the enlightenment of the Buddha, who also emerge from the mud of sullied karma and their obscured awareness into the light of awakening. So when you look closely again at the statue of Amida, when it's viewed from the side, we see that he leans outward from this lotus throne, beckoning us forward, encouraging us to engage with the Nembutsu, with Namu Amida Butsu. The name of the Buddha, the Nembutsu, embodies the dynamic of Amida's primal vow. We chant these vows, the vows made by Dhammakara Bodhisattva in his search for enlightenment, in, for example, Jusei-ge. So if you look at page 94 of our service book, right in Jusei-ge, we read, Gashi jo butsudo, myosho cho jippo, kukyo mishomon sei fujo sho jaku, which means, in English, upon my attaining enlightenment, if my name were not heard anywhere in the 10 quarters of the universe, I would never attain enlightenment. Hamandabutsu, that's the 17th vow, actually. There are 48 vows. The intent of the primal vow, the 18th vow, is to bring us all sentient beings, into awareness of the nature of reality as is, to become enlightened, or to bloom as lotus flowers do. So Shinran, founder of our sect of Buddhism, wrote in another one of his poems, the true intention of the Tathagata, or Shakyamuni Buddha, in coming to this world is to present the truth of the original vow. Shinran, as we know, lived for 20 years as a monk in the Tendai Monastery on Mount Hiei in Japan. At that time, and for many years following, Mount Hiei was the central institution of Buddhism in Japan. Almost all major sects of Buddhism can be traced back to Mount Hiei. While living there, Shinran studied and practiced Buddhist rituals, which he believed would lead the follower to enlightenment. He was actually a dosho, or a hall monk, in the hall of perpetual Nembutsu, where people would go around, circumnavigate the statue of the Buddha ceaselessly without eating or sleeping for 30 days. And it said, as well as supervise it, when they rested, they hung from poles. They could not lie down or stop. It was very, very arduous practice. And it is said that Shinran also engaged in these practices, as well as supervising that hall. In addition, in that 20 years, he was a scholar. And he is said to have read all the Buddhist sutras and commentaries, which are hundreds upon hundreds of very difficult, pithy texts. So we see that Shinran was a serious Dharma student living in a Buddhist temple, yet he could not achieve enlightenment by these practices, by his own efforts, no matter how hard he tried. He heard of another monk named Honen, who was also a Tendai monk, but he had broken with Mount Hiei and was preaching a different teaching. Honen proclaimed a new school, which he called Jodo, or Pure Land, and Shinran journeyed from Mount Hiei to meet Honen, who became his teacher. The practice of recitative Nembutsu filled a void for Shinran. He embraced it fully, entrusting in this simple practice to lead him where his own self-powered or self-directed efforts could not. So what seems simple on the surface does not always reveal its dynamics, as the lotus seed's struggle illustrates for us. As Bombu, or self-centered, unenlightened people, the path to the Pure Land is hard, arduous, almost impossible. We can't easily achieve awareness of the world of reality as it truly is by our own efforts. We simply don't have the non-dual perception that is necessary to understand this world. We really see it from a world, we really live in a world of duality, samsara and the other shore, when Amida sees it as one perfect pure land. However, by accepting the hand that Amida extends to us, seeing, hearing, and receiving the call of Amida, we can engage ourselves fully with Nembutsu, engage ourselves with Amida's compassion and wisdom, allow it to surround us and lead us to the other shore. So again, when we look at the statue of Amida Buddha, the face is covered. So leaning towards us shows us the dynamic nature of compassionate wisdom, but the face is partially covered. For as unenlightened human beings, we can never fully see the face of truth, the face of reality as it truly is. The hands have a meaning too. The right hand is raised. It calls us, beckons us, but they hold the fingers so they form a circle, which is symbolic of all life itself, the Dharma, reality as is, interconnected and interdependent. Left hand hangs towards the ground, showing compassion for the life we are living in this world of samsara, the world of illusion and suffering. Amida calls to us, and we respond with love and gratitude. Namu Amida Butsu. It's like hearing our parents calling to us when we were children. Even though we were dirty from playing, we might have done some naughty things, we're disheveled, disobedient, you're a bad child, you're a good child, but you're okay, just as you are. You're loved as if you were the Buddha's only child. Our great spiritual friend, Senji Shiki, as Jodo Shinshu Buddhists, is our founder and teacher, Shinran Shonin, whose legacy we see all around us, from the calligraphy of our current Monshu, Kojo no Tani, who is Shinran's hereditary descendant in the entryway of our 331 building. We also see Shinran's legacy in the calligraphy up here over the Yonaijin, which reads Kenshin, or the master who sees truth. And even the very building we are in, the New York Buddhist Church, all a part of his legacy and gift to us. So please place your palms together. Shinran Shonin wrote, "Through the benefit of the unhindered light, we realized, Shinjin, of vast, majestic virtues, and the ice of our blind passions necessarily melts, immediately becoming water of enlightenment." Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
So, Reverend Isabel, thank you very much for that profound Dharma teaching. There's a lot there, and may we always engage in the Dharma. So now we will conclude our service by singing some Gathas. And if I can find my notes here. We'll sing Namu Amida Butsu on page 174, followed by Nembutsu on 169. Please rise for the Gathas.
When life is fair and sunlight gilds the day, when fortune smiles and flowers adorn our way, oft let us pause with grateful hearts to say, Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida. Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu. Please be seated.
So we'll close the service now with closing Gassho. With gratitude for meeting here today at New York Buddhist Church on this day of Ohigan, when the days and nights are equal, we turn our thoughts to the other shore. Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu. So thank you very much for coming. I would like now to acknowledge again our wonderful Dharma talk from Isabelle Sensei. But also the piano today was played by Nabuko-san, and our greeter today was Hiroki Hasagawa, and our tech team, which, you know, is Carl and Yuen, and they were great. They were great. They were, you know, I mean, the things sometimes just don't work, and that's the way it is in this world of samsara, as we know. So
the impermanence of streaming services.
there you go. There you go. So it's a good example, and you've seen it. Now you're living it. And it ruins my, I can't give my pitch to the people online to join the church and send money, but I can mention to you to always encourage people to join the church and become members, especially if you're new or come infrequently. You know, this is a vibrant community and not too big. So a lot of people are looking for a place to be home. You know, spiritual home. This is a real, genuine Buddhist tradition that comes from Shakyamuni Buddha through the masters to Shinran and then down to us. And you can be part of it. And there's plenty of things to do. So we need you. So hopefully you will decide to become members. And all the information about that is online. And thank you for coming, and hope to see you again next time. Is there anything else that I'm forgetting? Okay, so thank you very much. Namu Amida Butsu.